Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my students of General Teaching Techniques. Welcome to today's session, which is looking at the scheme of work. That work is being presented by me, Kawazeradina, a lecturer at Mountains of the Moon University, Faculty of Education. I will take you right away to the definition of scheme of work. What is a scheme of work? A scheme of work, you can say it is in any subject, it's a clear, orderly statement of the work the teacher proposes to do in a given period. As teachers, we are aware that we're supposed to plan at the beginning of every term. When a term is beginning, we have to draw a scheme of work. Like I told you, we don't write a scheme of work, we draw a scheme of work. We can say it's a breakdown of topics. Remember, the scheme of work is coming from the syllabus. So we get to the topics and how they'll be taught in a term, week per week, week per week. So it's kind of a series of lessons a teacher is going to cover in a week, in a term. Another definition says that it is the arranged work that a teacher prepares to teach in a term. We can say it's a detailed plan, very detailed. What am I going to teach? Which method am I going to use? Which teaching aid am I going to use? Which materials do I need? They're all mentioned there. A scheme of work is in such a way that even if you, the teacher, is not there, someone else can come and teach. So we can see it is a breakdown of topics and how they will be taught in a term. For us, the university, we talk about a semester, and then we have a course outline. But in our environment, in the teaching, in a primary school or secondary school, we say it's a scheme of work. For the definition, I'll not delay you there. I'll take you right away to the components of a scheme of work. If you were to draw a scheme of work, it could have different formats, different methods of drawing a scheme of work. But one thing is clear, that the scheme of work must have these components. You can add, you may not reduce on these. It's like the Bible, we don't reduce, we don't add. But for the scheme of work, you can add a few things depending on the time. We are in the new curriculum, we're in the new setting, so you can add a few things. But what you shouldn't miss is the week. If a term is made up of 17 weeks, what are you going to teach in week 1? What are you going to teach in week 2? So the section for week must be there. In our arrangement, we do it in such a way that we have week 1, week 2, week 3, up to week 15. That is a section that you can't miss in any lesson plan. It could even be international. If the arrangement is per week, we have to show what we're supposed to teach. Then we have the period. Our lessons are in form of periods. How many hours? Usually the periods, when you talk of a period, you're meaning the hours. It can last for 3 hours, it's a triple. If it's to last for 2 hours, we say it's a double. If it's if it's to last for 1 hour, we say a single. So that section for period will always be there. We can say double, single, or triple. There is nothing like having a 4-hour lesson unless it's practical. If it's practical and the hours are 4, but it's really rare, that would be too much for our level. For secondary school, that would be too much. For primary, it would be too much. You can even see that in a secondary school, for us to have a 3-hour lesson, that might be a practical. Or it must be at A level. But for secondary, short chunks of time. So we're saying our scheme of work must have the period, and we're saying it can be single, it can be a double, it can be a triple. A scheme of work must have the topic of study. What are you going to teach about? For example, if we're teaching geography, we're going to look at volcanicity. we're going to look at weathering. That will be our topic. It must be indicated so that even when you're not there, you have an issue, or your supervisor is looking at you, he knows which topic you're going to teach. I don't want you to give poison to our pupils or to give poison to our students. So me as a supervisor, the head teacher, I must know which topic are you going to teach. Then the subtopic. It can have a subtopic. There may not be any subtopic, you leave it out. But then you must have the competencies, objectives. What do you want to achieve at the end of this teaching? For every topic, in week 1, I'm going to teach this, and it's for 3 hours, and the topic is this, and what do I need to achieve? For us teachers, we don't teach for the sake. We usually teach with a purpose. What do I want to achieve? What do I want the students to be able to do, the competencies? So a scheme of work must have a section of the objectives and competencies. Then it has to have the content. Like I told you, it can vary here and there, but this must appear. So the content, what you're going to teach, the body of what you're going to teach. If it's weathering in geography, you have to put it there. If it's mathematics, you put the content there. There's that section. It's at some point I will show you the structure of the scheme of work. You'll see how it flows. And remember, in one of our topics, our sessions, we agreed that we're going to draw a scheme of work. So you must be having your scheme of work aside and looking at it. Then the teaching aid. You remember we talked of the teaching aid, the materials that facilitate learning, the materials that help a student, help a teacher to deliver the content. You must specify them. That is how teachers are organized. We must put our plan, like you see a plan of a house. Teaching is like construction. For the plan of a house, you give the details. For a scheme of work, it's our plan, and we're giving the details. We're not saying we can't put the teaching aid there. They must be there. You tell us which ones. That's how critical we are. That is how we plan. On top of the teaching aid, you must show us, or there should be a section for the teaching method. Which method are you going to use? Remember we talked about how do we determine a teaching method. And we said there are many factors that determine the choice of a teaching method. And for this teaching method, you mentioned them there. There are usually more than 2 or 3. Don't have one. Don't put only one method. We vary. We use so many methods so that we're able to achieve the objectives. If you use one method, it wouldn't be very good. You need to change. So for the teaching method, you mentioned them there on the column. That means there is a column for the teaching method. Then we have the references. They must be there. We don't teach from the blue. We consult books. We consult articles. We consult publications. You must put them there. Why do we need to have a section for references? So that the pupils or the person coming in to stand in the gap in case you're not there is aware of which books to read for further reference. If you don't put the references there, I will not know where can I go to find more information about this. Then we can have a section for comment. The section for comment is usually for us to give a comment on the teaching. Usually we put it there at the end after teaching. And these comments can be like, this subject was not taught very well because of rain. I was not able to take my students to the field. I taught them from class. Next time, I'll take them there. So there are comments. We're evaluating ourselves and putting remarks. Those are the components of a scheme of work. The sections, when we're drawing it, it must have those in place. You can vary the competencies, the methods, depending on the new curriculum that we have. But these ones must be there. Why do we need to scheme? Can't we go to class and teach one subject and teach another and teach another? No, we can't. For teachers, we have to plan. The plan for the house, like a person cannot start a house without a plan, how it will look like. A roadmap. Our scheme of work is kind of a roadmap detailing what we are going to do at which time, which day, using which method, using which teaching aid, and what we want to achieve. So it would be really professional of you to teach without a scheme of work. Why do we need to scheme? That's the question. Can a builder start building without a plan? No. Can a tailor start working on his clothes without a sketch? No. For us teachers, we cannot start a term, a semester without having a scheme of work. We're saying it's a detailed plan of what we're going to teach, how we're going to teach with what for a whole term. A scheme of work makes careful and logical arrangement for the work to be done, so that we're able to see what follows what, which topic follows the other topic. We need to know this. That's why we need to plan. It encourages coursework to be covered within stipulated period of time. We talked of the period here. There is a section for period. So we're planning to see if this lesson is 3 hours. You know, we talked about a syllabus. We can talk about course outline. They have hours. How many hours are we supposed to teach? And we said one element of a good syllabus is that there should be the time. So when we have a scheme of work, we know what to cover when, at what time, how much time do we need. And with that one, we're able to complete our work on time. So it helps us to plan for time. The scheme of work helps us to complete work and to plan for time and budget for time. In case of an emergency, you happen to be sick, or God forbid you're dismissed, the head teacher doesn't have to suffer redrawing the scheme of work. You leave today, someone else is given this work. We know where you stopped, where you ended, and where the person is supposed to start, and what the class was going to cover. Like a building, if you stopped at this level, another builder can come and then take on, you know what you're supposed to put where. It evaluates the coverage of the syllabus. If we don't have a scheme of work, we don't have an instrument which we can use to measure the coverage. Me as a head teacher, me as an administrator, I need to look at this one to know, is the syllabus being covered? You could be covering it, but beyond a term. That means you can finish S4 before covering the syllabus. You can finish P7 without covering, which is very bad. So with a scheme of work, we will know when are we going to finish. It's a tool the administrator can use to evaluate the coverage of the syllabus. It helps a teacher to allocate time appropriately to different topics. There are topics which require 3 hours. There are topics which require 1 hour. Then you are able to know if this topic has this much content, how much hour do I need? So it's dividing content in 2 hours. At the end of the day, there will be hours, there will be days, there will be weeks, there will be terms, there will become years. So we'll say a session or a level of 4 years. How do I start from S1? I use this time 1 hour plus another hour. It becomes 3 hours at the end of the day. You total them up and you know how much time you've spent or how you're going to spend it. It also encourages teacher to look for facts in advance, like I told you. If you're going to teach this term, before the students report, you prepare what you're going to teach. That means you have the time to look for whatever you need and have it here in a basket, and you say, I'm ready to teach, in the form of a file. All your materials you need, or the teaching aid you need. If there is a need to buy something, then you requisition for it. So it helps us for a teacher to identify what we need and then get it in time. It helps a teacher in the areas of integration. With a scheme of work, you can integrate mathematics with the geography. or the activities of integration, which one are you going to carry out? So you are able to coordinate with your fellow teachers of other subjects. Where do you join? Where do you come in together? At which level do you combine? I don't want you to be moving at this level when the mathematics is going this side, geography is going this side, physics is going this side. But at which level do we converge? How do we combine content? For example, if in geography I'm teaching statistics, at which level is the teacher teaching statistics of mathematics? With that one, members, we can end here by concluding that the scheme of work is our plan that details what we're supposed to cover in a term, and we must have it in hard copy, written, not in our heads, but on file, so that whenever we need it, we look at it. When the administrator wants to see what you're teaching, they are able to look at it. Thank you very much for listening to me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kawazela Dina, your teacher for Foundations at Mountains of the Moon University. Thank you.